Susan Wojcicki, that's the YouTube CEO, even explains how they're doing it. She says they're making many more censorship rules, and they're enforcing those many more rules harder than ever. Those are two ways, she boasts, that she's correcting how people think.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I think it was a really important milestone in terms of what we announced today, because we have been asked many, many times by governments, by press, by advertising, creator community about this violative rate. And we were able to show exactly how good we are at enforcement of our policies, right? So we were able to show that we have a very high ability to find this content and show exactly what that number was. We were also able to show that we were able to reduce it significantly over time. So if you look at where we were in 2017 at this same time of the year, we've reduced this more than 70%. And that is due to an incredible amount of hard work with machines and also improving our policies. So not only did we significantly remove content that violates our policies at that significant rate, but we also created a lot more policies that we had to remove. And I would say the machines are good. We can find content across the board. But, something like hate speech or something that has a lot of context would be something that would be harder from a machine standpoint to be able to detect. But in the end, we've been able to really fine tune our machines so that we can find a lot of this content. And it is flagged, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's removed. So what happens is the machines will flag it, and then it will be sent to human reviewers who will determine whether or not this is in fact violative or not.
Well, look who's ready to give that censorship a real boost. Here's a story today in Blacklock's Reporter. Kill websites, says McLachlin, referring to former Chief Justice Beverley McLachlin. Federal regulators should take down websites with hurtful words, says a former Supreme Court justice. Beverley McLachlin yesterday said enforcement measures must be taken against internet publishers hurting our democracy. We need to have, in some circumstances, a takedown mechanism when it's going to be a threat to life, said McLachlin. Now, I don't know what she means by a threat to life. I'm guessing she means like a death threat, a credible, imminent death threat. I mean, that's already covered by the criminal code. I can't actually think of a single social media company in the world that wouldn't take that down. It's a violation of the terms of service of Twitter, of Facebook, of YouTube, whatever. I don't think you need the courts to get involved. I can assure you that companies do that automatically very quickly. But that's not what they're really after, is it? That's not what the pandemic thing or the voter fraud thing are about, is it? They're trying to get political mind control, not life-saving measures. Let me read some more. We also need other mechanisms. We need a place where people can raise complaints. McLachlin, 77, retired as Chief Justice 4 years ago. She co-authored a federally funded report that said Parliament must, quote, protect against social harms on the internet. Speaking in a podcast for World Press Freedom Canada, McLachlin said current limits on free speech are inadequate, including libel law and 1970 hate speech provisions of the criminal code. The problem is they're not always swift and fast, said McLachlin. Criminal proceedings take a terribly long time. We are proposing an e-court where you go online, you say, this is happening to me. I am being bullied or harassed or whatever it is. And how do I deal with it? And there would be experts who know how to deal with those things. Oh, just that, eh? I love the fact that censors call themselves, what do they say? World Press Freedom Canada? That's gorgeous. What, did you think they'd call themselves Globalist Press Censorship Canada branch? No. But they knew they had an ally in Beverley McLachlin, and it's quite sad. Beverley McLachlin, I mean, she's the one who denounced Canada as a racist, genocidal country. Now, that's not true. It's a lie. It's a smear, but it just happens to have fit perfectly with the anti-Canada agenda promoted by not just Justin Trudeau, but by the Communist Party of China. They keep throwing that back in Canada's face whenever we mention human rights abuses in China. They talk about our genocide, and really, fair play, if our own Prime Minister and our own Chief Justice say we're human rights criminals, say we committed a genocide, why shouldn't China be able to quote them back to us? And of course, in the case of McLachlin, the Chinese don't just quote her, they hire her. That's McLachlin on China's official website. for the Court of Final Appeal in Hong Kong. Now, back in the olden days, like just a few years ago, that would be great. A perfect job for a Canadian. Help oversee the independent laws of Hong Kong. That would be a great job. But that's over. Hong Kong isn't free anymore. China has crushed it. They're arresting politicians in the street. They're arresting lawyers, democracy activists. They broke their promise to Hong Kongers, and they broke their promise to the UK and to the world that they would keep Hong Kong free. They're a tyranny now, just like the rest of China. But Beverley McLachlin stays on their court. She loves it, and they love her. She denounces Canada as racist. She gives the communist regime cover in Hong Kong. It's so, so gross. But she seems perfectly aligned with China on internet censorship, doesn't she? I love that line. She wants swift and fast justice. Not enough to do anything about slow justice when she was chief judge. But she doesn't want any of this rule of law stuff and procedures and evidence stuff where each side gets a chance to make their case and test the other side's case. She doesn't want that. I mean, that's how it was when she was more Canadian in her approach, maybe. But now that she's more Chinese Communist Party, she really thinks things can be done in a flash, doesn't she? Just make it happen like a dictatorship does. Let me quote, McLachlin described the internet as a wonderful but powerful weapon that should be controlled. Quote, we all understand that speech is a wonderful thing, really, I like it, and should be allowed to be free as long as it's not hurting other people, said McLachlin. And then you have to impose some limits when it's hurting other people or hurting our democracy, unquote. Our democracy. Is she talking about China now or Canada? I got to check. And what does she mean by hurting? Hurting people's feelings? I think that's what she means, because you can't actually hurt someone just with the word on the internet. I guess the consequences ultimately would be to shut them down, she says, which happens in non-democratic countries all the time. I mean, I hope that would never happen. I really do, guys. I hope it would never happen. But there is that ultimate issue. If you want to do business, you have to do it responsibly in accordance with our rules. You can put pressure on that way. Oh my God, she sounds like she's working for Beijing. Did she really just say that's the ultimate outcome? Just taking things down? There's just so much information that people are ready to believe all sorts of things, said McLachlin. So we now find disinformation can be harnessed to be a very powerful force that can threaten democratic functioning. Wow, so in order to protect democracy, we have to destroy democracy. In order to protect the internet, we have to destroy the internet, especially against disinformation. That's a word that China uses a lot. I mean, I might use that word too. I think it's disinformation to say that Canada is a genocidal regime. I think that hurts democracy to say that, to say we're all racist. I think that's harmful. I'm embarrassed that she's our former chief judge. Instead of spreading liberal democracy to China, looks like she's trying to spread Chinese-style censorship over here. And it's working. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.